I still remember the exact second the cabin went quiet. Not the polite kind of quiet you get before a flight takes off. I mean the heavy kind. The kind where you can feel eyes shift before you actually see them. A glass stopped halfway to someone's mouth. A laugh died in someone's throat. And then a voice cut through it, sharp and rehearsed. "Sir, I need you to move. These seats aren't for you." I was already buckled in. My daughter was beside me, feet not quite touching the floor, hugging a worn-out stuffed dog she'd had since kindergarten. She looked up at me, first confused, then past me, trying to understand why a stranger in a crisp uniform was snapping her fingers, like we'd done something wrong. I didn't answer right away. Not because I was shocked, but because I recognized the moment. I'd lived it before. Different rooms, different faces, same script. "I think you have the wrong seats," the attendant continued louder now, smiling in that way that isn't friendly at all. More like practiced authority. "First-class tickets are expensive." That word expensive hung there, heavy with implication. I handed her our boarding passes. Calm, polite. The way you learn to be when you know reacting wrong can cost you more than staying quiet. She didn't just glance at them. She studied them, turned them over, held them up to the light like she was inspecting fake bills. Around us, people watched, some openly, some pretending not to. One man across the aisle folded his newspaper just enough to see better. Another smirked, like this was mild entertainment before takeoff. My daughter leaned in and whispered, barely audible, "Dad, did we do something bad?" That did it. Not the humiliation. Not the stares. That small, cracking question from a 10-year-old who was 5 minutes ago excited about headphones and warm cookies. "No," I said quietly, squeezing her hand. "We didn't." The attendant cleared her throat. "Sir, I'm going to need to verify that you actually belong in these seats." Belong. That word has teeth when it's used like that. I nodded. "Of course," I said. "Though this is the third time today." She didn't respond to that. Instead, she waved another crew member over. They whispered, glancing at us, then back at their screens like we were a math problem they couldn't solve. Minutes passed. Long ones. The plane was fully boarded, now engines still quiet air thick with impatience. Then the supervisor arrived. Tall, confident, voice designed to sound reasonable while cornering you. "Sir," he said, standing just close enough to feel intentional, "we've had some concerns raised about ticketing in this section. Perhaps it would be easier if we stepped into the galley and cleared this up." Every instinct in my body screamed what this really was. Step away. Remove yourself. Don't make it public. Make it easier for us. I looked around the cabin at the rows of faces that had been watching this unfold in silence, and then down at my daughter, whose shoulders were tense, whose eyes were glassy but trying to be brave. I shook my head. "I don't see the need," I said evenly. "We haven't done anything wrong, and if there's a problem, you can explain it right here." The supervisor's jaw tightened. "Sir, this flight won't be leaving until we resolve this." A woman 2 rows back sighed loudly. Someone muttered something about connections, pressure, social pressure, the kind designed to turn the room against you. And then a voice I hadn't expected chimed in. "Some people just don't know how to cooperate." It came from across the aisle, not even addressed to me, just tossed into the air, confident it would land. My daughter flinched. I felt something hot rise in my chest, not rage, not yet, something older. Tired. Familiar. I reached into my pocket and took out my phone. The attendant reacted instantly. "Sir, you're not allowed to record." "I'm aware of your policy," I said calmly, already unlocking the screen. "And this isn't a safety procedure. This is harassment." That word changed things. The supervisor stepped closer, too close. "If you're unwilling to follow crew instructions, we may need to escalate this." My daughter's fingers tightened around mine. "Dad," she whispered, voice shaking now, "I want to go home." That broke something in me. I stopped recording, took a breath, and nodded. "Fine," I said. "We'll step aside, but my daughter stays with me." In the galley, away from most of the cabin but not really hidden, they asked again for my ID, again for the tickets. Then suggested casually, cruelly, that maybe we'd be more comfortable in economy. With people like us, the supervisor added before he could stop himself. There it was. No more pretending. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't explain who I was. I just said, "Thank you." That's all I needed to hear. We returned to our seats. My daughter stared straight ahead, quiet now, trying to disappear. I pulled out my phone again, not to record this time. I sent one text. Then I made one call. I didn't pace. I didn't whisper. I spoke the way I always do when something matters, slow, precise, leaving no room for misunderstanding. "Yes," I said. "I'm on the plane." "Yes, it's happening right now." "No, I don't want it smoothed over. I want it addressed." From the corner of my eye, I saw the crew watching me differently now. Curious, uneasy. The plane didn't move. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then the announcement came, bright voice, rehearsed smile in audio form. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're experiencing a brief delay. Thank you for your patience." People groaned. Phones came out. Whispers spread. A few minutes later, the supervisor returned, but he wasn't leading anymore. He was following. 3 people in suits boarded the plane. Not flight crew. Management. The mood shifted instantly. You could feel it like air pressure changing. The attendant who'd snapped her fingers earlier was pulled aside. Voices were hushed but urgent. Faces pale. Someone glanced at me, then quickly looked away. One of the executives approached. "Mr. Harris," she said carefully, "I'm very sorry for what you've experienced today." I met her eyes. "I'm sure you are." "Now," she swallowed, "we'd like to speak privately." I shook my head again. "My daughter was humiliated publicly," I said. "Any resolution can happen the same way." Silence. Then a passenger stood up. I saw everything she said loudly, and it was wrong. Another voice joined in. Then another. The cabin wasn't quiet anymore. The executive nodded stiffly, understood. A moment later, the announcement came, not the one anyone expected. "Ladies and gentlemen, this flight has been canceled. Please gather your belongings." Gasps, confusion, complaints. My daughter looked up at me, eyes wide. "What's happening?" "Accountability," I said softly. We were escorted off the plane, not like before. No hands hovering, no pressure. Outside in the terminal, someone finally said my full name correctly, carefully. They explained, apologized, promised investigations, training, policy changes. I listened. I didn't interrupt. When they finished, I said one thing. "This isn't about me, or my seat, or my title. It's about the fact that none of this would have happened if you thought I belonged the moment you saw me." They didn't argue. Later, walking through the terminal with my daughter's hand in mine, she asked the question I knew was coming. "Dad, would they have listened if you weren't you?" I thought about that. "Maybe not," I said honestly. "And that's exactly why it matters." She nodded, quiet, thoughtful. We kept walking. Behind us, people would argue about delays and inconvenience. Online strangers would debate whether it was really that bad, whether it was about race or money or attitude. But I'd already lived the answer. Because the moment they asked me to prove I belonged, they showed me exactly who they were. And the moment I didn't beg, didn't explode, didn't disappear, I showed them who I was. So let me ask you this. Do you think situations like this are really about rules and tickets, or about who society quietly decides deserves respect before they ever open their mouths? I'm curious what you've seen.